bagpipes mean only one thing. It's time for DERFCAST, episode number 31, from the Palatius Studios of DERFCAST headquarters here in the inner sunset of San Francisco. I am joined by Max the Cat, my security guard, who is always at his normal place at the foot of the bed, making sure Pipes the Cat, who's the engineer, does her job, who's sitting right here, demanding attention, but my attention is going to go to my two guests here, who I've had on individually 2-3 times before. I want to welcome Irish Mickey Doyle and Big Billy Anderson to DERFCAST episode number 31. Welcome, you two.
Thank you. Hi, thank you very much.
I'm kind of tongue-tied here. Like I said to Billy before, when I had him on and Mike on before, I'm a little nervous, but that's what makes my show my show. It's not done for money or anything. It's just done for fun. And let's start the fun up. And Mike, did you have a good Thanksgiving? Because last time we spoke, you were going away for a holiday.
Yeah, my wife and I drove down to the Detroit area, and, it's always good. Spend time with my mom. She's old, and brothers and sisters, and my sons, and
that's
grandkids, and it was a positive thing. We were there about 6 days.
Wow, that's great.
Maybe it was a little longer, but it was good. It was a positive. Yeah.
Did you run in
there with Billy Anderson tonight? Is really great because we hadn't really talked in probably 30+ years.
So tonight, go ahead, Billy.
It's just going to say it's so strange. We connect on Facebook and things like that, and Mickey and I have conversed on Facebook, but not like this over the phone in decades, and I don't understand how it works that way, but it just does. But, the respect for one another never changes, and that's what I love about certain people in the business that we were in, is the respect is there for the time till you're gone and well beyond that. And that's what I love about guys like Mickey Doyle, and it never ends. There's a lot of guys that are like Mickey that I just have such tremendous respect for, that you just pick up where you left off from 30 years before. And hardly anybody can even understand that kind of philosophy, but we do for some reason.
Well, you guys last wrestled each other how many years ago?
It was 84, so it was 31 years. 31 years ago.
Well, Mike, let me ask you, Mike, what's your instant memory of when I say you wrestled Billy Anderson 31 years ago? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, first, let me say, Billy said that so eloquently. The word eloquently, I believe that is the word.
Yes.
About how the conversation just picks right up. It does. That's pretty cool. How I was thinking that when he was saying that, how it does. We just pick up our conversation from 1984, I guess, just catching up now. But we've seen, he's seen my stuff on the internet, and I've seen his, so I got a feel for his, what he's been doing in life, so on. But now we can talk about it.
Well,
that makes sense, I hope.
Mike, it makes it makes great sense. That's one of the beauties of Facebook. You can converse for years and not talk live.
For that.
Yeah, that's one of the few good things about Facebook.
I agree with that. Definitely, I've reconnected with so many old friends from the business, wrestlers, photographers, writers. It's been a wonderful thing. And besides that, that's the main, I'd say 99% method I sell my books and everything through is Facebook. It's the only thing I have time for, really, with working a job and writing. Is just dealing with Facebook and things like that. So it's worked out real good.
It sure has. It's made my show happen, and it's been fun. I mean, I can't tell you how fun it is, to be able to talk to people wrestlers I watched on TV and live. I mean, I've had the pleasure of seeing both you gentlemen in the ring live. And my last, and I'll get back to that question I asked you, Mike, but my last show, I was talking to Billy, and I didn't realize it was him under the mask at a WWF Challenge taping. That blew my mind when you told me it was you.
At the Cow Palace?
Yeah, at the Cow Palace.
Yeah. Yeah, Vince put me under a mask because I was ring announcing in L.A. and he didn't want anybody to know his ring announcer was doing a job on TV.
Were you Dr. X or somebody like that, Mr. X, or who were you?
I was the Black Knight.
Yes.
I was the Black Knight, and I was also the White Shadow. I had two different gimmicks. At that time, the friends told me I was the Black Knight.
Great TV show, The White Shadow, but that's a whole nother story. But
I remember Ken Howard. I met him in Chicago at the Chicago Bulls basketball game, believe it or not.
Really?
He was there getting an award.
That was
his TV show.
I mean, that was such a good show. It
was. I loved it. I loved it. I love the White Shadow.
I did.
I think that's why I subconsciously chose that name. It wasn't intentionally. It was like they said, you need another gimmick, come up with a name. White Shadow. I had white gear, White Shadow.
Well, okay, so back to my question to Mike here, or Mickey Doyle. When I mentioned to you on Facebook that Bill Anderson would be on the chat, what was your first thought of your last match with him?
Well, I got a little happy. I got real happy. I thought, just like we're doing now, we're talking, Even though we could have talked 15 years ago on the phone, I don't know, it's funny. Like he said, I don't understand it either. It's just, the way things are, people talk on the Facebook instead of the phone now, so.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It was a buzz. I got a buzz from it.
That's great. And Bill, the same question to you.
Well, Fred, when you mentioned, would you like to do a show at the same time with Mickey Doyle, I think I responded within a second of you posting that to me.
You sure did. Yes, you did.
I said yes, because there's not a doubt in my mind when I pass it up, a chance to share memories with a guy like Mickey, and very special memories. It goes back so far back in both of our days. But we got to work with each other, and I'm really thankful for that because it's good memories of that. And it's just and above all else, I thought about this. We're survivors. We're sitting here still alive, and thank God for that. We've obviously lost so many friends that it's sickening. Let me just share this with you, and I think you both appreciate this. I had been postponing working on my autobiography for years and years and years. I mean, for 15 years I postponed writing all these stories. And Mickey, I got some stories about our friend Mike Boyette that brought me to tears writing about him because Mike saved my life a couple of times in Tennessee. He was just a tremendous man. I mean, a real tremendous man, and you know that as well as I do. But I postponed writing my book for a long time because I kept saying to myself, I want this book to be like some big, happy baby face ending for a blow-off feud in my life where I end with this fairy tale prince that goes off with a beautiful woman and the sunset, and that's how life ends in a modern desert island. And you know what I realized?
Yeah.
I don't have to do that. I'm still alive. I am thankful that I'm not thankful I lost friends, but I lost so many friends over a million different reasons, and like you have, Vicki. And so you know what? I'm a survivor, and for that, I am celebrating that by telling my stories and realizing that my success is not in having some beautiful woman and $1 million in the bank. My success is I'm alive and enthused about life, and that's what makes me a success, and that's what makes me happy.
Boy,
so
that was well said.
It hit me. I'm telling you, Mickey, it hit me the other day. And I can't remember the gentleman's name. It was on Facebook. I posted some of my pictures. I was posting old Boyette pictures with Chris.
Yeah, right.
And somebody said, Bill, I don't even know the guy. He posted on one of my pictures, I hope you realize what a special life you've led to have met and known all these people and worked and traveled. And as much as I've done, I never really put it all into perspective. And I sat there and looked at my pictures, and I'm thinking, I guess to a lot of people it really does look like that. It doesn't to me because I lived it. I don't think about it like that. We don't think about all that stuff. But I realized, you know what? It's perception. That's the way he perceives it. And why aren't I perceiving it the same way? And that's one of the reasons I really got off my tail a couple weeks back, started really getting back into my biography, and I've written a lot for years, but I've never wanted to put it together. I've got pieces of career all through 30 years, put it together, and I just left it in piles and piles and piles. And now I'm putting it together in a solid fashion.
That's good.
And I realize there's a story to be told, and it is a successful story, and doesn't have to be the happy ending that I was looking for. The happy ending is I'm going to be alive to do it. And that's the bottom line,
right.
And that's what made me realize. And it was just, that's it. It's guys like us, Mickey. It's guys talking to you. After 31 years of hanging out with you in California before you left to go back to Michigan, it's like, shit, it's guys like you and Jack Armstrong and great friends that motivate me. You're still kicking, man, and that's a good thing. So
you're saying you did write stuff over the years, you just never coordinated it all.
Yeah, I've written a lot of stuff in pieces of my life that meant something to me, and I put it on paper. And God knows I saved enough photos and everything. I took 1 million pictures. I haven't had the motivation to put it all together because I kept thinking, well, to a reader, they're gonna be bored, or they're not gonna see this big successful ending to this story that I become the president of the United States or something. It's like, no, I'm working a regular job and I'm 59 years old, and it's like, but you know what? I'm alive, man. I am alive and traveled with Mike Boyette.
Well, those pictures you put up, those Christopher Colt, Mike, those are good pictures.
Yeah,
really
and it really is. I was only 18 when I was around Mike and Chris, and it was an eye opener. And you know what? It helped me grow up. I saw a lot in Tennessee, working down there for just 3 months. But I was working like 10 shows a week. We were, double shots for TV.
I remember you told me the story one time. You guys were going down the road after a show, and Christopher Colt, you was driving, and they were gone, right? I mean, they were gone. They were messed up. And he put his hands over your eyes at about 70 miles an hour. Didn't you tell me that story?
I think so. That sounds like something I would have said. Yes. Yeah. I'll tell you, some of the stories I really can't share. I don't really want to share because they're real long and they're real special, and I want to save them for the book because I think the reader will really get a kick out of it. But I can just tell you that on my son's life in California, I'm telling you the truth, that Mike saved my life twice, and I write about it without a doubt because I was just such a dumb kid. But Mike Boyette was a hell of a man, and what I also said in my book too, when I'm writing, is what I feel the most guilty about, Mickey, is that in all the time after I left Tennessee in '75, and Mike went his way. I think he went to either Bill Watts or Mike or Leroy McGurk's territory somewhere, or he went back down to Mobile. I never, ever, ever had a chance to make contact with Mike again, ever, in my life. And then he passed away a few years ago, and I kept trying to get a hold. I saw guys like Cowboy Bob Kelly at CAC, different guys, and I said, Bob, you got to get me a number on Mike Boyette. And he says, Bill, he's in and out of places. He lives here, he lives there, he changes numbers, this and that. I'll do my best. Next thing I hear, a couple of years later, Mike's gone. And I always wanted to, and I'll regret it to the day I die, that I never got to call him and talk to him and say, Mike, thank you for all you did for me as a stupid 18-year-old kid, hanging out with you and Chris, working shows, didn't know my butt from a hole in the ground, but you had the patience to be like a father figure to me and an older brother to me and treat me with equal respect like you did all the boys. And I never forgot that, and I never will forget it, that Mike was there for me, and he really helped me out a lot. He was just one of those great guys. I don't think he ever got the appreciation he should have gotten in the business. And, of course, I mean, he had his faults, too. Like a lot of guys, it's no big deal. Everybody had them. And Mike went his direction in life, and But he was a cool guy, man, and as you probably know far more than I do, Mickey.
Well, I'm just going to say the one thing he never got credit, he was great on the mic. He could talk. Like, he could really pull an interview off. He was comical, or he was forceful. He was really good on the mic.
So,
no deal. I mean, he was the man on the mic. That's for sure.
So for the outside fan, such as myself, now you guys both teamed with him at different times, of course.
Yeah, Mickey was first.
Yeah, I was 72 and 73, and maybe into 74. And that was about it. And then we never saw each other again. But then Billy, would you say 75? You guys were together.
75, yeah, 75. And how that happened is I was wrestling in Phoenix with Chris Colt, and we were going to go work. Don Fargo had come through, and he says, "Hey, Chris, why don't you try to get in with Goulas?" He said, "I'm on my way down to Goulas and Jarrett." And he says, "Why don't you try to come on down there?" And Chris says, "You know what? I think I will." And he said to Ron Dupree, who was his partner, he said, hey, Ronnie, he says, let's go down there. And he says, but I want to bring Bill in as my younger brother and have you be the manager, because Ron had a couple heart attacks. And he said, Ron agreed, and we were going to do it like that. And 2 weeks before we were to leave from Nashville, we had a starting date and everything with Nick. For Memphis TV was our first shot on a Saturday. And Ronnie had another heart attack 2 weeks before we were leaving. And Chris says, you know what, we can't take you, Ron. And Ron ended up going up to Seattle for Dean Silverstone. And that was the end of Ron Dupree. I never saw Ronnie again. And then we went down, and we were on our way, and Chris had called Nick Goulas, and they had set up a deal with Mike Boyette to come in. So we ended up meeting Mike in Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi. We met Mike at a motel. Then we were all going to drive up together for our first shot in Memphis. And Mike surprised us. He had 3 tickets for an Alice Cooper concert. Welcome to my nightmare, 1975. It was June 6th. I had to look it up online on my research for a book. It was June 6th of 1975 in Jackson, Mississippi, and Mike bought us tickets for the concert. And
that was pretty cool.
You know, and we just, and I thought, you know what? Mike was standing there with his two-tone hair and everything. I said, man, this guy is awesome. I really liked Mike from the get-go. He was just a cool guy.
When you teamed with him, Mike, what was the name of your team? Because it was just before my time.
We were the California Hippies.
And then, Bill, what was the name of your team?
We didn't really have a team name. It wasn't necessarily a team name.
Gotcha.
It was for the most part, it was Chris Colt and Mike Boyette, and I was the third guy that would fill in 6-mans or be their manager, that type of thing.
So it was like the Freebird type of situation.
Yeah, it was basically like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would interfere in some matches, and then we come back in a 6-man main event against the Fargos usually, or something like that.
So that was okay. I'd like for you to, both you guys, tell me about your last match against each other, the gimmick match that we were talking about off air. How did that come about, and who was the promoter, and who won?
I just remember we did a regular match, and I think Billy gimmicked me, and I bled, and we did the return from that, and I think we got double DQ'd in the gimmick match.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah, we worked on 2 or 3 shows together to lead up to the, 2 shows at least to lead up to the Detroit Street Fight match.
Detroit Street Fight, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and now, you know what's funny? A Detroit Street Fight now is just when you go grocery shopping.
If there is a grocery store, but
you got to tell the story about Billy did his Japanese tour with FMW, right?
Yeah,
the Sheik and the fire, the ring on fire.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. Well, tell it again. Billy told that at DERFCAST. I think it was 28. DERFCAST 28. He did that, but tell it again because Mike hasn't heard it.
That was an incredible show. It was an outdoor show. because what they wanted to do was this, they called it a no-rope fire death match, some kind of a gimmick thing, name like that. And they could only set a ring or set a rope the barbed wire on fire on an outdoor show because no arena would sanction that. So what they did was they put these cloth things around the middle of this wire and wrapped it around the poles, the barbed wire. And then they put these cloth on there and they set it on fire. What they didn't realize was they had doused it so much with whatever, lighter fluid or whatever they used, that the ring caught on fire, the canvas, and it was a tag match. It was, well, if you call it a tag match, it was just a wild match. It was
Sabu. Yeah.
Yes, Sabu and the Sheik against Tarzan Goto and Atsushi Onita, who promoted and owned the company and was the top babyface. So it was the four of them in the ring. So they're just exchanging punches left and right. They set the thing up on fire, not realizing, because they've done it 100 times over there, that they somehow had put too much on, and too much kerosene or whatever the hell they used, and the ring, the canvas actually started lighting up all in the edges, all the way around, and they were all four trapped into the middle of the ring. And I had a photographer friend of mine. I've only posted a couple pictures on my Facebook page, but I got probably about 10 pictures from that show that a photographer gave me, a guy that traveled with us, and there was a point where, I mean, they were all four laying like in a huddle together, like trying to figure out what the hell they were going to do to get out of there alive. And he took the worst of the blow of it all, maybe because he was older, I'm not sure. He couldn't move as much. But he was burned very severely. And I think, as I told you, it's funny, but it's not funny. Funny for many reasons, because, Sheik was a real good, decent man, and I had a lot of respect for him. But we went to the hospital that night. He had severe burns on his arm and his chest were very, very severe burns. I don't know what the degree was, but it was bad. And when he was laying on the table and his skin's falling off over his chest and his arms, all the doctors wanted to do was stitch up his forehead. They weren't worried about his arms, his Sabu. He says, F the forehead. Get to the chest of the arms. Don't worry about his forehead.
Well, Mike has a great Sheik story that he told on one of my episodes, our episodes, that they had a gore fest at the independent circuit in Detroit.
Yeah,
a gore fest?
Yeah, remember you were telling me that when I asked you if you ever wrestled the Sheik, you told me you did.
Oh, that one, yeah. But first, let me go back to that Billy story. I remember I saw a tape of that Sabu. I was over there, we were going to a show, and I was picking him up, and he showed me that footage of that whole match. And then at the end, it showed Billy on that tape watching when it was all over, but it was just the ring was gone, and there was smoke coming up in the air, kind of. It was just like surreal. But Billy, you were in that movie, or that footage. I don't know if you knew that or not.
It was so incredible. I mean, we thought we were going to lose all four of them that night. I mean, Sabu, he's just like damn lightning in the ring. He can get out of anything, but...
remember, he was the first one out. He just slid under the barbed wire, if I remember. Then he went back in for the Sheik eventually, because Sheik was... I don't think he was disorientated, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure. I think even some shock might have been setting in there, too, because he was just like, it was overwhelming, the smoke and the heat. They were triple bang there. They had the fire, the heat, and the smoke that was just destroying them. And
I think the Japanese boys helped a lot getting them out. Sabu and then those Japanese kids that were always around the ring, they came in, if I'm not mistaken.
And they don't think and prepare for that stuff. They don't have 50 fire extinguishers.
Yeah, there was no fire extinguishers? Wow.
They don't
well, eventually there was. I think they brought in a fire truck, actually.
I don't recall, but that's very possible. And they just never thought that something would get so out of hand, with just putting some wire on fire. But they had wrapped it was a 6, 8, 10 inches thick of this, whatever it is, some kind of cloth around the ropes in several places on all three ropes on different places, like two big, 4 or 5 foot strips of it on each rope, so that you had 20 or 30 of these damn things around the entire ring on the wire. so that it was lit up enough where it was tough. It was tough to escape without getting some burns.
Well, shit. I hope the payoff was okay for all the guys.
It was a funeral fire.
Yeah, funeral fire. Yeah. Well, the Sheik did real well over there. He was on a guarantee. His guarantee, I can tell you this, his guarantee per night was what I was making per week.
Wow.
And justifiably so.
Right.
And
yeah.
we used to complain all the time before. Vicky, you tell us about your match. I got to tell you that we used to complain left crazy because when we stayed in Tokyo, we stayed at this little hotel called the Tokyo Inn Annex, where you could literally lay in the bed and touch all four walls with your feet and your hands. It was so small of a room. And then we had to get up a half hour early for our each road trip because we had to do what they called pick up the Sheik at the Sheik Hotel. And the Sheik Hotel was a 5-star hotel, which was the equivalent of like a Hilton or something else. And we always had to pull up, and the Sheik would come out, and we had to sit there and wait, get up early. And we used to always complain. It was just funny. And the referee said, "We go to Sheik Hotel. We go to Sheik Hotel now."
Who was on some of your tours, Bill? The guys that you went with?
It was the late Mike Awesome that killed himself down in Florida. Mike Awesome was with us. Another guy named Mark Starr. Oh my gosh. There was a guy that worked as Bobo Brazil Jr.
Yeah, the Indiana. I know who you mean.
Yeah. That guy, he was with us on one tour. That was my last tour. It's in '93, and Tiger Jeet Singh was on a couple of the tours with us.
With his sword. He had his swords.
Yeah, he had his sword. He brought his son with him once on one tour, and I made sure because I was a mark from Tiger Jeet Singh because I had gone to Tobo Arena shows when I was a kid, so I knew who Tiger Jeet Singh was. So I was with my partner Tim Patterson, and when I was with the Sheik and Sabu matches, or with Tiger and his son, they only wanted to deal with me because they knew I was a mark for them, and they knew they wouldn't get hurt by me.
Really?
Yes. I'm not joking. So she told Sabu, he says, "You take the big guy," meaning Tim Patterson. He says, "I got this guy." And that's all. I never made contact with Sabu in one of my matches because Sheik just liked to have fun with me because it was just the Sheik's match, and it was just you do what he wants you to do. It was fun. And the same with Tiger. Tiger didn't even want to deal with the other guy, even though Tim was very experienced, my partner. He didn't even want to deal with him. He just knew I'm from Detroit, and I've been working longer, so he says, "You're my guy. I'm hanging with you for this match." And it was like, that was fun. Because, I was thrilled to work with guys I'd seen.
Legends. Just legends.
Yeah.
My God. Well, how come, as a side note...
Your story.
Oh, go ahead.
I just said, Mickey, tell us your story, brother.
It's just, I can't, after the fire story, everything's anticlimactic, It all goes downhill. We just had a match. We had a match in Mexican town in Detroit. The Sheik's career was basically over, and I was just doing indie shows. But we had a match. We worked the gimmick 1 week, then came back in 2 weeks. But it was just at that point he was gigging everything. He gigged my stomach, and he gigged his head, and he gigged his arm, and I gigged my arm. It was just kind of funny talking about it like that, but that's all it was. A gig fest.
Yeah.
Do you remember how many stitches you had to get afterwards, Mike?
I never got stitches. It's just butterfly. It leaves a scar.
Butterfly, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. No crazy glue?
No, that was Sabu. Sabu was famous for crazy glue.
Really?
I had peroxide, real good, and alcohol, and then put a good butterfly on any lacerations I had.
Bill, what about you?
The scars look good. Let's be honest, the scars look good.
Yeah.
Bill, what about you when you had to blade or gig or what was your?
I never had. The only stitches I ever had was when Adrian Adonis, Taylor being a mouth, and I had to have 27 stitches at a WWF.
That's a story for itself there, brother. I remember you told me that story, Billy.
Jesus.
Yeah,
remember that.
He kicked me between the legs first, and I was selling it because I had to.
Well, yeah.
In front of 10,000 fans, and then as I bent over, he came up, and Adrian was a pretty good-sized man. He was a big, strong man.
Yes, he was.
He came up with an uppercut that caught me right in the lip, right in square in my mouth, and I thought at first second he busted every tooth out of my head because all I felt was instant numbness in my whole lower half of my face.
Oh, great.
And then as I was bent over, the blood poured out. It was just like a fire hydrant pouring out of my mouth and my nose, and I thought, oh my God, he's busted all my teeth out. And I had to reach up and feel. I could not feel my teeth. I mean, I could feel my teeth, but I couldn't put my finger on them.
Right.
How numb they were. I could feel I was touching teeth, so I knew he didn't knock my teeth out.
Well, that was good.
But I had to have 27 stitches inside and outside of my mouth. I had to go to a plastic surgeon in San Diego that night and get stitched up. I was there until like 4 in the morning at this hospital right near the sports arena. But I'll tell you something funny. This is how this business is. As drunk and high as Adrian was, as we walked back through the curtain, Mike LaBelle, who was booking the local guys at that time, and right when Vincent first sold out and was still in charge of booking a lot of the local guys, you worked some of those shows too, Mickey.
Right.
At some point, because I knew you were on some shows at I think it was the Olympic, you worked.
Yeah. When they first came in, after they ran TV for a year.
Yeah, and Mike LaBelle, he says to me, he says, as I walked through the curtain holding my mouth where I'm completely red with blood, he says, what did you do to Adrian?